Hey, it's David. I've been having trouble changing gear. I know what the problem is, so let's get into it. When I'm riding a bike, this is my normal riding position, and what you notice is that there's quite a big gap between the gear lever and the top of my boot, and that means to change gear I've got to come up here, and especially if it's first to second, which is the one I'm having real difficulty with, I've then got to somehow get my foot really far up, which is difficult to do without actually moving a foot around. I have the same problem with Sportster, but that's just a Sportster. But also, when I come to change down a gear, I'm having to actually take my foot off the peg in order to get up there, because there's no way I can bend my leg. This joint just doesn't, certainly when wearing motorcycle boots, just doesn't bend enough. The problem is the lever's in the wrong place. And as I say, I can see why, so I'm going to fix it. It's a really simple fix, so let's get it done. Right, so the gear lever is pivoted on the foot peg, certainly on the Bandit here. It then, when you lift this up, it pushes this rod forward, which then changes the gear down here. So it's a remote linkage, and it's reasonably complicated. So we lift it up, that pushes forward, that turns the gear shaft there, which changes gear. Now, there is adjustment in at either end of this rod, so you can change the length of that rod, and that will move this up and down. But that's a relatively fine adjustment. The problem is actually down here. At some point this has been taken off and it hasn't been put back in the right position. I'm not sure when that's happened, because I don't remember this bike being like this when I last rode it, but a mate of mine has been looking after it. He's been doing a few bits and pieces for me, including touching up some paint down here, so it might be that he's pulled it off and put just back on in the wrong place. But it's going to happen because this is the front sprocket cover. So anytime you're checking your front sprocket for wear, changing it, doing anything to do with the clutch or similar, this is going to come off, this is going to come off. So it's important to make sure it goes back in the right place. And it might be that it doesn't for you. You might get it back from a service and it's not quite in the right place. So rather than taking it back, it's easy enough to adjust. There's very often a little dot punched into the end of this shaft, which matches up with this gap here. Now in this case there isn't a dot, but at some point in the past, I think I've done it, I've scratched a line, and that line is currently pointing here, which indicates this should be down there. So all we do is we back this pinch bolt off. We might have to get a screwdriver just to open up this clamp a bit. We pull it off, we turn it, because these have got splines in here. We turn it a couple of splines, we put it back. Don't have to clamp it up. We check it and see if it's gone the right way. If we've gone the wrong way, we take it back off, we move it a little bit the other way until we get it about right. So let's get that off, let's get it adjusted. Right, now you'll normally need to pull these pinch bolts all the way out. Just loosen them up isn't enough, because they normally have a groove in the spline shaft in which they seat. So you can't take this off without removing the bolt. Okay, this one's loose enough to come off, so very often they aren't. There we go. Now, moving it this way drops, you can just see, drops the lever down. So if I move it down, and that's where I want to go. So, right, that's now marked, lined up with the scratch mark there. Now, let's say if I just pull it off, you can see there is a groove. Move the light here. So there's a groove in there in which this bolt sits. So this bolt sits down through this groove, which stops that sliding off. So let's put that back on. There we go. So we've got to get it far enough back for this bolt to go in. Let's see a little thing go back in, but before I put that back in, let's just check to see if it does anything to my foot position. Right, so that seems much more natural to me. Now these are not the boots I ride in, so it's a little bit hit and miss. But now I can actually get on top of the lever to change down without having to take my foot off. So this feels like the right place to me. I could drop it down one more notch maybe, but what I need to do now is give it a test ride and see how it works. Right, and just torque lightly. If I find this is the right position, what I might actually do now is get a centre punch and just punch a mark in this next to this slot, so that next time I have this cover off for any reason at all, I can quickly and easily put it back on, because this scratch is quite faint, and that'll make the job much easier, and I won't have to fluff my gear changes in traffic as I'm pulling away from the lights, which is what I've been doing recently, and it's really embarrassing to keep dropping the bike into neutral when you're trying to get it up into second. There we are, really simple and easy fix to adjust the height of your gear change, so no reason for any more fluffed gear changes. Okay, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys again soon.